Hello, welcome back to part two of the Welsh teams in the Welsh League, a football manager experiment with me, DJam FM. I hope you're all doing really well. The success of the first video, I just want to say a massive thank you before we get any further. The amount of feedback that I've received from the FM community has been fantastic. So again, thank you very, very much for that. We're now at the end of the second season in the Dafabet Welsh Premier League, and I just want to see how things have gone in terms of the current league table. So, kind of more or less the same as what has happened before, with Swansea winning the league, Cardiff finishing in second place, Newport third, Wrexham fourth. It'll be very interesting to see how the finances has affected clubs like Swansea and Cardiff, whether or not they're still in financial difficulty. Possibly next season, when more and more players are going to be sold, what will happen to the actual squads themselves? What will happen to the clubs? Will their reputations, go down? You'll be able to see that from the reputation of the actual Welsh League itself, it has dropped down to 122nd position, which is not good at all. I mean, it's behind divisions like the Ladbrokes League 2 in Scotland and the second division in Sweden. So if we have a look at some of the transfers, the biggest movement in was from a Welsh team to a Welsh team here. 160 grand for Luke Williams, who has moved from Ryle to Port Talbot. Then some more of these ridiculous transfers that we've been seeing throughout, from the first episode. Jack Cork been sold for 24 grand. He's now on 94,000 a week. Ridiculous money. Craig Noon going to West Brom. Andre Ayew, Joe Mason, Gunnarsson, Leon Britton, Ben Turner, Matthew Connolly. The list goes on and on and on. If we look at, for an example, Swansea's outgoings here, they've sold a combined total of £78,000 worth of players. But look at the amount of outs that have happened. Profile of Swansea, they're now in a secure position, so they've obviously managed to get their finances at sort of like a level playing field now. They've still got Gary Monk in charge, still got Russell Slade in charge. Their finances they're insecure, which is quite interesting. Not been a fantastic season for them, although they've just finished in second, which is kind of to be expected. Their reputation's now down to 1.5 star. What was Swansea's at? Swansea's is still at 3.5. So Newport County, Warren Feeney in charge. Finances are secure. They have got a 1-star reputation. They've done really, really well, actually. Nathan Ralph, a player that I know from Yeovil, I believe. Yep, Yeovil. Danny Holmes is a decent player. Joe Day is a decent player. In terms of a transfer history, they've been really proactive with some of the players that they've signed. So the likes of Paul Robinson, who's on £1,500 a week. Demetrio, who has come in. He's a very good player, actually. So it seems like Newport are benefiting from this quite a lot, actually. So Lee Lucas has come in on a free transfer from Swansea. They've had a lot of players going out, which you would probably kind of expect as well. Wrexham have got Gary Mills in charge. They've got people like Lenny Pidgley in the team. Daniel Afe, who is actually from Swansea. Yeah, he's actually from Swansea itself, so they've managed to pick him up. People like David Stevens is at the team. Jack Compton, who was from Portsmouth. Yeah, was at Portsmouth for a very, very short period of time. Don't know why I know that. Owen Doyle was the top goal scorer in the league. He's still on £10,000 a week, but he's proven to get the goals. He scored 24 goals in total in the league. Anthony Pilkington with 17 assists. His contract expires, so will he still be there on 13.5 grand? You just think it's highly unlikely. The Word Cup, which I didn't actually feature in last year. Let's try and find out who won the previous season. So Port Talbot won last year's one. This year's was won by Cardiff, 3-1. And then the Welsh Cup was won by Swansea, where they beat Newport 2-0. So Cardiff and Swansea sharing the honours in terms of the Welsh competitions. So if we have a look at the Euro Cup first round qualifiers, so how did some of our teams do? Let's try and find some of them. So Ryle are in there for some reason. I don't really know why, but they've managed to lose 3-1 on aggregate. Bangor City is in there as well, and they drew 1-1 in the second leg, lost 3-1 overall. And TNS lost 6-0 on aggregate as well to Cherno Moor. So some of the big teams are actually not involved in any of this. Let me just go on to let's have a look at Swansea and just find out what's going on. They're not even in the actual Europa League at all, in any way, shape or form, which is really, really bizarre. I don't quite know what's going on with that. The actual Welsh League, the rules do state that one team qualifies for the Champions Groups phase. So let's see if we can find anybody from that. So Port Talbot. Well, how were they the champions? What were they the champions of? I don't remember them winning anything last year. Let's have a look. What did they win? They won the World Cup final. So is that what gets you the rules on there? I don't know. I've completely lost what's going on in this league. This is bizarre. So does that now mean that because that was won by Cardiff that they're going to be in? Oh well, we'll figure it out in the next season. I'm going to progress another year now. See what kind of things happen in terms of third season. See how some of the teams progress. Because that has just really confused me. But Port Talbot got knocked out straight away in the first qualifying bit. We're going to progress one more year, just see how we're getting on and see if the Welsh League can actually improve in reputation, maybe with some of these other teams, for example, Cardiff and Swansea, who have won a cup competition, where maybe they'll get into Europe. But let's have a look and see what happens in a year's time. So here we go. We're back for the third season of the Welsh teams in the Welsh League experiment. Let's just try and have a look at the league table and see how things have progressed. Before we even do that, you'll be able to see that the reputation of the league has just dramatically gone down. So it's now down to 130th, even behind something like the Kazakhstan First League, which is just doesn't indicate well for this particular part of the episode. So Swansea have won the league. They've won all 32 league games, which is just incredible. The biggest shock is Cardiff have now dropped down to 4th position in the table, which is just absolutely shocking. They've lost 12 games this season. You'll be able to see that the games that they have lost are more or less against the same type of teams. It's against Wrexham, it's against the Newports, it's against the Swanseas. Yeah, 12 games overall. That's a really big disappointment. Wrexham and Newport have benefited from that massively. So Wrexham now finished in 2nd place. The New Saints finished just behind Cardiff and Port Talbot just behind them. In terms of the cup competition, so the World Cup was won by Swansea, a 3-0 win against Ryle. And the JD Welsh Cup was also won by Swansea. So they've managed to get the treble. And again, they beat Ryle 3-1 this time. So yeah, Swansea have won the treble for every single competition that they possibly can in the Welsh leagues. In terms of the Champions League then, let's try and have a look and see who has progressed in what. So Bala win in the first qualifying phase of the Champions League. Not really sure how they managed to get into that competition. So they went out against Dynamo in the second qualifying stages. I suppose that's 5-1 on aggregate. At least they managed to get themselves a goal, which is interesting. 3,000 fans turned up for that game, so that's absolutely fantastic for them. In terms of in the playoffs, so Cardiff lost 3-0 against Dynamo Kiev on aggregate. So unfortunately, they missed out on a Champions League place, which is really, really disappointing. But if I try going to Cardiff, there we go. So there they go. So they lost 2-0. And they also lost 1-0. So 32,000 fans turned up for the first game against the likes of Dynamo Kiev. How does that compare to normal? So in terms of a league, when they play against Swansea, there's 25,000 fans there. On a regular game, they get about 10,000 for standards, for sort of standard Welsh League games. In terms of the group knockout stages then, so here we go. So Swansea were the team that, I thought there was something a bit strange about this, but Swansea are in the Champions League now. They were in a group with PSG, AC Milan and also Schalke. So they won 1 game in total. So they didn't even manage to get into the Europa League part. So it looks like they beat AC Milan 1-0 with a Bafétimbi Gomez penalty. That's good for them. So that means that they've still got some fairly decent players left in their team. So in terms of the Europa League now, so unfortunately Ryle got knocked out in the first qualifying round, 4-0 on aggregate, and the New Saints lost 7-1 on aggregate as well. So that's really, really disappointing for them. If we have a look at the New Saints, when they did play their Europa League match, they got just over 1,500 fans at the game. So that's fairly decent for them. So that's pretty much it in terms of the actual cup competitions and who's done what and who has progressed in that. Obviously, Swansea are benefiting from this massively now because they're going to be in the Champions League, you would suspect, on a consistent basis. Some of the major transfers that are happening on here, so let's try and find and pick out some good ones. So Peter Whittingham has left, Lee Peltier has left, David Marshall has left as well, Harris has left, Doyle has left. So Cardiff had a massive overhaul in terms of their transfers. You'll be able to see here that there's been a lot of outs, a lot of major outs for them, and some free transfers for the likes of Tom Adeyemi, who's left the club, Dig Kachoy, who has left the club, he's joined Swansea. God, that must be a kick in the teeth. Fabio has obviously left as well, and some of the players that they're bringing in, they're actually loaning in a player from Wrexham. So really, really bad times for the club. You see some of the standard of players that are now signing. They have suffered massively from this experiment. They're on a half-a-star reputation, but they've got now secure finances. Swansea are on a 3.5-star reputation. Obviously, they're doing really, really well from this. As I said, they've kind of leveled themselves out with their finances, and they've brought themselves onto a level playing field now. Obviously, being in the Champions League, their reputation is going to be very, very high. In terms of their squad, they've still got the likes of Fabianski, Ashley Williams, they've got Chris Gunter, John Joe Selvey still there, Nathan Dyer, David Edwards, Madhu Barrow, Gomez, Sam Vokes is now at the club. So they've managed to keep a hold of quite a good nucleus of players. In terms of Newport, they're on a 1-star reputation now, the secure finances, so they're progressing quite nicely with this. Wow, actually, I've just had a look at something on one of the fixture lists for Newport County, and it shows them and Cardiff being in the Europa League. Unfortunately with Newport, they weren't able to win any of their games that they played. They had Werder Bremen, Dnipro and Anderlecht in their division, so that's a really, really tough defeats in there. Look at some of those losses, that's horrific. They've managed to get themselves 2 goals. I just want to have a look at this. So Newport are playing their games, is that right? They're playing at Rodney Parade for their actual league games, but when it comes to the Europa League, they're playing at the Millennium Stadium with 36,000 fans. That is absolutely incredible. The likes of 4,996 when it comes back to Rodney Parade as well. And for Cardiff, they obviously were in a very, very tough division as well. They had Wolfsburg, Feyenoord and Legia, and they've lost all 6 games, only managing to get 1 goal, which is very, very disappointing, but we've already had a look at their squad in quite a bit of detail. So yeah, they're obviously playing at the Cardiff City Stadium, but they're getting the likes of 32,000 fans at their games for some of the Europa League matches. Then it goes down, as we've already mentioned, back down to 10,000 for them. And then the next game against Feyenoord, 32,000. So the fans seem to be turning up for the big games, but nothing more than that. So that will wrap things up for this particular episode. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Now the league is starting to make some sort of sense about the pattern of how things are going and who's qualifying for what competitions. It's really interesting to see. Swansea have taken their performances onto another level. They're now in the Champions League, so how well can they progress? Can they start attracting some decent players in? If they're going to be in the Champions League, they must be getting a fair bit of money from this. Other teams for the likes of Wrexham, Newport, can they continue in the Europa League? What is going to happen to Cardiff now? Absolutely shocking from them. They've lost pretty much all of their decent players, and they're now back to having a bang average team for this league. I'm going to do another episode after this. We're going to go up to the year 2020. That will be in episode 3. So if you want to see that, well, I mean, there's going to be an episode, but if you've enjoyed episode 2, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on this experiment. Is it something that you've enjoyed? And thank you very much again, if I haven't said it already, I'm pretty sure I have, to the FM community and all of their support and help and feedback that they've been giving me. As I said, thank you very much. I'll see you very soon for the 3rd part. Check out my Super Spurs series if you haven't done so already. Really, really appreciate that. And until next time, adios.